Well, good morning, golf fans. Your boy is back in South Florida, but had an absolute fantastic time up there in Atlanta and excited to go through our last slate of the year for a review before we hop into next season. Of course, guys, golf really doesn't have an off season, right? We have like a week and a half, 2 weeks to kind of figure out what we're doing with our life. And then we're right back into golf tournament after golf tournament. So don't get too used to the rest over this next week or so. Of course, we've got football coming up. We'll be diving into that here on the channel as soon as tonight, actually, with our first football stream. And of course, just getting you ready for all the showdown and main slates throughout the year. So excited. It's this transition time that we love. But hey, one more slate to worry about before we move on to next year's action. So let's make sure we make it a good stream here. So first off, welcome on in. Maybe you've got a coffee in hand. Maybe you're on coffee number 4 at this point. It's a number 1 for me today. I drove until about 4:30 a.m., made our way home, woke up bright and early, which 1 o'clock after a 4 a.m. sleep is pretty damn early for me, and we made it. So first off, welcome to the chat. We've got Paul down there. We had Nick down there. He had the 2X in week long. Paul actually took down a GPP. I didn't want to talk about my exposure too early, but an insane week. We made money on week long. We made money on showdown for all 4 slates. We made money for props 3 or 4 days, over $5,000 profit there. I think it was like $4,500. And then, I didn't even realize this until about a minute before we got on stream here, guys. Xander won the, shadow leaderboard, right? I didn't even know that. And it was at the golf course. Didn't think about it the entire drive home. Went into my bookie app this morning and had $15,000 just sitting there. So, yeah, that paid for the trip plus like 3-4 times just with that bet there. Made money with all of our exposure this week. It was a heck of a way to end the week. So you love to see it, Paul. You finished, second in the FanDuel GPP. $1,500 never hurt anybody. So now you've got that little extra bankroll to work with, Paul. So maybe next time, I know you said you could have won 30 grand. Hey, now you have the bankroll to work with. So congrats on that. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, no takedown here, no first or second, but we had a lot of really close lineups this week. I was out there live sweating my lineups, and we nearly took down a GPP ourselves. So you love to see it, Paul. And yeah, 2X, and you said 2X is not bad, right? Especially for week long. So good stuff there, Nick. DP World Tour contest looks spicy. Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't usually play it, but Nick, hey, without golf, I might do some crazy things, right? Like go out there and play some DP World Tour. So I might be trying to pick your brain about that. Just keep that in mind. I might need some help, Nick. So let's talk about some lineups here, shall we? I see Carolina Reaper down there. It says great 3X week in DFS. Awesome data. Love to hear it, dude. So congrats first off, and let's keep it going, right? We've got 2 weeks. We got the Fortnite Championship. We're going to have some Ryder Cup DFS. There are a plenty, right, of fall series events, right? Sanderson Farms are some classic I'll probably be going to again. A few other scattered events. Well, we'll make it happen. So, all right. So in terms of lineups, I'm going to start with the community contest. So kind of like last week, I'm trying to make this a little bit more structured than it's been in the past. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with a look at the top 5 lineups in the community contest. And then we're going to look at the top 5 lineups in the GPP. So first, just kind of looking at the community, right? Checking in on who's got the bragging rights for this week. And then afterwards, I want to get an idea of what actually took down the large field GPPs, whether it's from the lineup construction perspective, just the players, right? Those top lineups we're getting to. We want to look at some of the good lineups first before really diving into the weeds with my exposure. And then afterwards, looking at some of your exposure out there to give you some constructive criticism. So in terms of what went well, right? CS Foreman took down our contest over here. Elite combo of Hovland and Xander. I have to say that golf yesterday, watching it in person, was some of the best golf that I've ever seen, period, the end, between those two golfers. I believe for a best ball, they shot like a 13, 14 under par, just ridiculous level stuff, right? I mean, they shot 15 under if you just added their 2 scores, and they ham and egged it pretty well as well. So that was really cool to see. Heck of a start up top, obviously, for CS Foreman. He had Wyndham Clark, who finished in 3rd, and then some, value tier guys that kind of sucked. But when we get over to the GPP winning lineups, you'll see that this is a trend, right? I told you guys going into the week that the salary that you were saving down here was really a lot more important than how the guys actually played. And that's exactly how it ended up playing out. Adam Schenk was really the only one down there that you had to have from a value perspective. Outside of that, you could have played, a Straka in some of your top end lineups. Let's see, who else was a decent value? Like Sam Burns, even though he was a little bit more expensive, right? You could have had him down low and gone away with it. A lot of the best lineups, not only in our community contest, you see Bar Down Sniper here in second place, took this value tier approach, right? That studs and duds type of approach that I was talking about. And this isn't a surprise, right? We had this week, we had the 50-man field the week before that. We also had the 70-man field, right, for the first leg of the playoffs, where all of these trends were very obvious, right? We went through the winning lineups the last 2-3 weeks, and they've looked the same, right? So if you're looking at these lineups and you're surprised, don't be, right? Or if you are, you just haven't been putting in the legwork you need to be going out there and playing DFS. When we get results like this, they're just as important as all the research you do going into the week, right? You have to look at what actually works, what actually wins GPPs to go out there and do that yourself, right? How do you think the top end players go out there and actually learn how to be a top end player, right? You're not just born with that. You don't just start playing DFS and immediately start winning, right? You have to figure out what other people are doing to find success and either try to replicate that or improve upon it, right? Maybe take something that they're doing and, adapt it and make it even better for what you're doing. So that's why we do these live streams. That's why I want to point this out, because I had a few people comment saying like, oh, the studs and duds approach, you don't see that very often. We have for the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? And I think if you didn't play that kind of lineup, you got screwed, right? There are no balanced builds up here. Let's see, where's the top guy that doesn't have a 5K? Is there even anyone who didn't play a 5K? You can see this guy Yama only had the 1 5K option, and it was Griot, right? So a little bit more expensive, and he finished down here in 9th place, right? My lineup, for example, I didn't do that. I didn't take the 5K players, and I finished in 14th, right? I had your winner, Victor Hovland, who was only 10% owned here, and it didn't pay off that much for me, right? I knew that everyone was going to take that studs and duds kind of approach, and I still kind of did, right? We still had 3 guys from $7,000 and cheaper, but I was a little bit more different in the mid-tier, right? Rather than going up and saying, okay, I'm going to take Hovland Xander together, which I should have done, right? That would have been the best move for my lineup out there. I went Victor still, and then I went, Ricky Fowler, right? I took down, a Tommy Fleetwood, who in this contest, because it's our community contest, might have been a little bit higher owned than he probably should have been, but in most contests was like 15% owned, right? Was a true pivot, right? Like what we had here with the Hovland and Victor. So that was my take on it, right? I maybe should have been a little bit more aggressive with the salary, as you can see with the top end lineups here. So I don't want to look at mine. Let's scroll up to the actual winner here, which was duplicated 5 times, which, by the way, this sucks, right? If I would have entered this exact combo in quote unquote won the GPP with a duplicate of 5, I wouldn't have been very happy about it, right? You can see the next lineup was duplicated 3 times. The lineup finishing in 11th was duplicated, 3 times there. How many was my top lineup duplicated? That's what I want to know, right? So if you go down here to my top lineup, it was duplicated quite a bit, right? This left salary on the table. This lineup had pivots in it, as you can see, but it was still duplicated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if this lineup would have won the GPP, I would have been even more pissed off than these guys that actually won first place, right? That had the 5 lineup duplicating there. That's the issue with a lot of these top lineups. So let me look at my 172. I know I had a lot of these up top. My top lineup wasn't unique, but I know I had quite a few lineups in my top 200 that were unique. Let's see. I guess this 172 one probably, it could have been, right? We didn't look at the actual lineups there, but let's see. Actually, let's go up to the 75. How many are the exact same is my question. Are they all the exact same? No, right? They're not. So I had Siwoo, Burns, and Straka down low. That lineup was different. That lineup was different. That lineup's different. Actually, it might have been my top one, might have been unique. Different. Yeah, so I didn't have Finau, right? Yeah. Was I unique? Maybe this is the lineup I was thinking about. Okay, so no, this one looks the same, right? It has Siwoo, Burns, Straka. Yeah, so I had one guy that had the same lineup as me at least. I think that might have been it. Yeah, this is the lineup that I was thinking of. So actually, it was duplicated twice. This Jeff Dog guy also had that same lineup. So kind of unfortunate, right, that we did have duplicates with these top end lineups. But just to show you, right, how much I was doing to try and be different here, This lineup left at least $500 of salary on the table, right? It had a Siwoo Kim, who was a pretty decent pivot, right? It had a Victor Hovland, right, who wasn't like 40% owned, like a Scotty Scheffler up top. It had Xander, right, who was, I know, 20% owned, right? But it wasn't like he was the 40% owned that some of the other guys up top were. This lineup, I really thought was going to have a better chance of being unique, and it wasn't. So that should show you it's hard. In an 83,000 entry contest, it's hard to get unique. In fact, I mean, I did my best to get unique. Maybe that was to my detriment, right? So this next lineup, it did have Wyndham. It had these top 3 players, and then I didn't have Shank down low. This top end lineup, right? If I would have used Shank and maybe switched up, somebody like a Siwoo to somebody that scored a little bit better, this lineup could have taken down the contest. This 273 down here had Tom Kim, who was just so sporadic this week. If he would have done a little bit better, this lineup would have done, obviously would have moved up the boards too. 279, another one with Hovland, Xander. I'd say a decent week. In terms of ROI, we profited, like I said. These lineups that were up here in like 75th, 172, before Morikawa moved out of the top 3, top 4, those lineups were doing a lot better as well. But we had a lot of fun with it, right? We made money this week. I'm not going to complain about that all too much, especially when we're in the large field GPP, right? When we're playing against 83,000 entries, when we're playing with such a large rate contest like what you are here, right? I'm playing for first place, right? And that's kind of why I said I'm glad I didn't win the GPP, because if I would have had to split that with 2 other people, like I know this guy split it with 5 other people, I would have been pretty ticked off about that. So next time around, maybe I set the salary cap even lower than what I was doing for my lineups this time around. Just for transparency, the most I spent on a lineup this week was 49.5. That was like the hard max that I did. I mentioned that I was going to use kind of like a cascading strategy of lowering my max salary for different sets of lineups. The lowest salary range that I used was 47.5. So I had lineups in my set of 150 that literally were leaving over $2,000 on the table. So that's why I said maybe it worked to my detriment, right? If even the winners up here were all being duplicated at least a few times. You can see the 6th place lineup was only duplicated twice, which if that guy won, he would have been pretty damn happy about doing that. That's not so bad, right? So maybe I need to be, you could really take this either way, right? You could either say, well, I'll give you both arguments, right? That the winner duplicated, so who cares, right? It's going to duplicate anyways. Or you could say that it's so easy to duplicate, maybe you have to go even more crazy about it, right? Leave that more salary on the table like I was talking about, or maybe add even more pivots into your lineups. Because when I win this contest, kind of circle back, right? I mentioned like, oh, I won $250 or whatever, like whatever. Like when I lose $300, $400 in this contest, I do the same thing. I'm like, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. It's kind of what you expect with these large field GPPs, to be frank with you. You want to win that $50,000 prize. That's why you play the contest, right? You don't care about winning the $250. Frankly, you shouldn't care about losing the $400 if you play in this contest week to week. That's kind of what you're signing up for, but you want to win this first place contest. The issue I have with saying that duplicating doesn't matter is it does, right? Because when you actually win, you're going to win less, right? You're going to win $18,000, right? Rather than this $50,000 prize. So if your whole point is to play this contest to win first place, which is my idea, my thinking, right? When I'm playing this kind of contest, that matters a lot, right? So I'm siding towards the being even more unique next time around, because I don't know if I could live with myself if I duplicated 5 times and won this contest. Like my lineup that finished in 75th, like it would have been even more. Now, again, not all these were the same combos, so maybe it was less, right, that actually tie for first out there. But there were like, 15 people with the same exact score as what I posted out there. It could have been a very annoying week, right, if we actually had that first place lineup. So obviously, if I won to 18 grand, I wouldn't be complaining by any means, but that is a negative EV scenario. That's why people worry about duplicating. That's why we obsess over, uniqueness, right? Going out there and making sure that we're getting leverage to the field, because this matters, right? This change from 15 down to 18K has a massive impact on your long-term results. Outside of that, though, let's look at some of my worst lineups. So we looked at a few of the good ones. Let's look at the just worst lineups that I entered. All right. Mike was unplugged, but I think we're good now. Yeah, we're good. What I was saying, though, I guess I threw my coffee down too hard there, is this lineup my worst one I entered, which was actually like 400 from the bottom. Oh boy, this was like a really, really bad lineup, right? Was balanced, right? Had more of like mid-tier players in it. Probably not a surprise, right? There's probably a reason for that. Let's look at a few other ones. Another pretty balanced build. A lot of the same players, obviously. So like that was a big reason why this lineup sucked. But look at this. Like Rio's in all of them, first off. Nick Taylor's in a few of them down here, but they're balanced, right? It's like one stud and then like I hammered this 8-9K range. It's not to say that that strategy can't work, right? If a lot of those players shoot like 15 under par, like Wyndham Clark did, you might be able to make that kind of lineup work in these large field GPPs. It just feels like such a fringe outcome, though, right? Like it's not going to happen very often. You can see almost all my lineups down here were built the same, with the same kind of price ranges down here. So I'm probably going to avoid that next time around. I was trying to fit as many studs into lineups as humanly possible, but I didn't set hard, fast rolls in my optimizer to like force in two guys from like 10K plus. But we might do that in the future. That might be something that I actually go out there and change a little bit. Outside of that, I'm going to look at some of the ownership numbers this week. We'll look at some of the lineups in the community contest too. So now I'll open it up down in chat. If you want your lineup reviewed, go ahead and let me know when we'll go through it. A few of you down there in chat, I can see there, right? LSU Nick, where did you finish? 43rd. That's why you didn't ask about your lineup. I totally get it. I don't like to go over my lineups either when they're down here. But yeah, it was a balanced build, right? That in my opinion, that's your problem with this lineup, is that you didn't take that value tier approach. You did the same thing last week, Nick, and I tried to tell you. So I am going to give you some shit for that. I tried to tell you that wasn't the move, and clearly wasn't. Let's look at T Swenny's lineup. I know he watches these on replay. Where you at? Are you even in this contest this week, my boy? Yeah, you are. I know you are, right? You did the same thing. All right. I have no sympathy for you two. At all. No sympathy. I literally told you last week that would happen, and it happened. So, and I know you were here last week on the stream, right? We had this conversation. Same thing with Rage Reason. Did the same thing. I don't know. I try to tell you guys, right? There's a reason why we do these live streams, right? I mean, I hardly took my own advice too. And look at this. I also went a little bit more balanced. It's not the move. It was getting cute. I got cute with my lineup. You guys did too. And we got burned by it. At least I cashed. But you guys down there, you gotta stop trying to be too cute. That's what I think you're doing. I'll just say that. Round 4 showdown was good, Glavka. That's sweet. Yeah, it was a decent for me, I'd say. It wasn't as good as round 2 or 3. I actually did better rounds 2 or 3, but a decent round 4. Appreciate the help this week, of course, Cody. Hopefully you won some money this week. If not, you just had some fun. That's pretty sweet too. But that's awesome, man. Let's go through some ownership numbers. So I've been kind of delaying this because ownership this week was atrocious. Like, I mean, when you have such a condensed field, when there's only 30 players to choose from, it's inherently going to be harder to do ownership. But like everyone was off by like 2-3%. Now, that's not horrible when the guy's like 26% owned, right? It's not like we're talking about the guy being 2% owned, right? And we were 2% off, but it was a tough week with ownership projections. I don't think anyone should feel pretty good about their projections. Everyone's that I've reviewed to this point, gone through and done like the R squared on. It's like the worst week that they've ever had, myself included, when it comes to that. But I do think it's because there was only 30 players. Like Jordan Spieth was off by 12%. That's not good right there. Taylor Moore was off by 8%. That's no bueno down there. That's a little bit better in the mid-tier range. You're closer on most of those projections. I mean, even up top, I'd say that they were pretty accurate for the most part. But yeah, wonky slate. The R squared values across the industries were, you're not going to see much on those this week. I can guarantee you that. You're not going to see many people talking about that because they probably didn't do a very good job. Is what it is, though. It was a tough week. Kind of expected that, right? The guys down low were super highly owned. We knew that was going to happen, but maybe a few guys like Jordan Spieth, right, got a little bit more steam than I was expecting. I didn't talk him up this week. I played him, of course. You guys knew that, right? I mean, that was a given. You know I was going to play Jordan Spieth, but I purposely didn't talk him up because I wanted him to be lower owned. So I think maybe my ownership projection was off there because I was selfishly hoping that he would be lower owned. I was like, don't talk up Jordan. I was like, don't even say a word about him this week. I was like, I want this guy to be a ghost town out there. Like no one even like really thinking about Jordan. That did not happen. He was 40% owned. So I was going to play him regardless. Obviously, that's not going to change my strategy, but that was fun to see. Sam Burns, 33%. That made some sense. Nick Taylor, only 17%. I mean, honestly, if I would have known that in hindsight, probably would have been even higher on a Nick Taylor than I was before, which obviously would have backfired. So I'm kind of happy that wasn't the case, because I probably would have taken like 40, 50% Nick Taylor and maybe taken like a Griot or Straka out, because like they were going to be 30% owned, right? I played them in like 40% of my lineups. So you can see I played like almost all these value tier guys. I guess it's worth noting, I just matched the field on them. And that was fine this week, right? The issue was, and now this is like a meme, right? The only one that you had to have down low, right, to win the GPP, really the only reason I didn't take down the GPP this week is because the only one I faded was Adam Schenk. The only one out of the entire field. That sucked, to say the least. I mean, like, he didn't finish -1, obviously, too, right? He nearly like was top 5 and then finished in like 7th or 8th place by the end of the week. The Jason Day fade worked. The Keegan Bradley, the Russell Henley fades were okay, right? You didn't have to have those sort of players in large field GPPs. The Glover and Harmon ones definitely worked out. Same thing with the Max Homa, Patrick Cantlay fades. But yeah, the Adam Schenk one down here, that bastard, he got me. So we'll leave it at that. Let's see, any comments down in chat? If not, we're going to go ahead and cut this thing off. Alrighty, I think that's all we've got for this live stream. We'll look at your lineup, Glavka. I know you're down there in chat right now. I actually can't remember how you did. So I don't want to talk too fast in case I'm wrong there. Let's see, where are you at? It's one of the only weeks you didn't win, Chris. I'm used to seeing you like top 5 or winning every week. But yeah, you took the right approach to it, right? You took the cheapies down low. I'm not sure if you used all your salary here. Based on the amount that you spent, it looks like you might have left a little bit on the table. Lineup was just fine, right? Harmon kind of sucked. Glover kind of sucked this week, but that's just going to happen sometimes. From the lineup construction, right, that's what I'm worried about, right, was whether you took the cheapies and then spent up for the players that you should have, and you did that. Because honestly, there's no excuse for not having done that this week. Like the percentage chance, and the reason why I was given T Swinney and Nick some shit for that is like the percentage chance for people not to like, for that studs and duds approach not to have worked this week was like 0.1%. It was like less than 0.1% chance that that mid tier was actually going to be relevant this week. So like that, good thing with your lineup construction. Yeah, not good. You think you left 400? You at least went for it though. That's what I mean. You executed your lineup the right way. You better than I did. I didn't take my advice the best in that single entry. You did at least. Round 4 was good to you in the community contest. Yeah, let me check that out. I actually forgot to bring that up. Thank you for reminding me. I almost cashed, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So let's see. It finished in 4th. Good stuff. Let's bring up your lineup there. 1 second. My round 4 lineup was good for like half the round, and then it fell apart after the rainstorm. Nick had Hovland, Shoffley, Cantlay. Oh, look at that. Look at those 3 studs up top. And then you took just 3 solid players down low. Yeah, I loved this kind of build for Sunday. You had your chalk up top, right? That was playing well, that all finished top 5. Check, check, check with all 3 of those players. And then you played Jordan. He sucked. I did too. I'm a sucker for playing him. I get it. But just like good players, right? Burns, Spieth, Finau were all severely mispriced. They weren't starting in position really, I guess, except for Sam Burns. He was kind of starting in position. You were just looking for not placement points down here, right? You were just hoping that they scored, right? Went down there, made like 4 or 5 birdies. Jordan, of course, I know he shot +1, but he still made 6 birdies. I mean, that paid off, right? The 4 birdies for Burns, that was definitely enough. The 4 for Finau was pretty decent too. I got to say, like, yeah, this is how you should have been building your lineup. That's how I did too, right? So if you look at mine, right, like I took Scheffler, Shoffley. Now, Scheffler obviously didn't do anything Sunday. That was to my detriment there. But yeah, Henley went off for me. We had guys like Ricky play really well. Tom Kim and Finau as well. So like, that's what I meant. Halfway through my day, I was feeling really good about my Sunday Showdown lineup because I had Henley, Fowler, Kim, and Finau all go off. And they were all kind of like my early starters, right? I was taking as chasers, like 5, 6 birdies, 3, 4 birdies down there with those 2. And he had a bogey-free round for Tom Kim. And then just, it just didn't work out. I honestly don't know how it didn't win. What? Because I didn't have Hovland, I guess. Right? I guess that was really the only thing that I was missing. Because how many points did Hovland score? Like 80? Yeah, so that's a 50-point difference right there compared to what I took with Scotty Scheffler. If I have those 50 points, I finish in second place, right? I finish about 6-7 points behind Yamaha Sled there, which, by the way, I just realized it's Yamaha Sled. We used to own a motorcycle dealership, my family, up in Pittsburgh. I should have known that was Yamaha. I don't know what I said before. I think I said Yamaha Sled or something. We got it. But yeah, nice lineup there. Should have played the damn Victor Hovland. We would have had that thing going. Alrighty, guys. That's all I've got for the week in review. We will be doing some content tonight. Something over there for Best Ball. It's going to be a live stream, doing a few together. Maybe getting a few of you guys in the draft to talk some shit. Maybe steal a few players from me. And then later on in the week, going to be doing some Euro golf stuff. So a lot of that's going to be prop based. I'm going to be doing some sort of video content, kind of going over what to expect from this week. And then some prize picks, and maybe, I don't know if Underdog's going to post an Euro board, maybe some underdog bets over there too. So I know we don't have the PGA Tour for like a week or so. We're going to have to take a break on that end, but definitely some football to supplement it. And then, of course, Euro, LPGA, I might be doing some props for too. And then Live Golf, they're also off for like 2 weeks. So we're not going to be seeing them until we get the PGA Tour back. But the third week of September, I believe the 22nd, they start back up too. So they have like Live Chicago, Live, a couple other Live events. And then the one down in Miami is in October, which of course I'll be going to. So we'll have prop content for that, perhaps even DFS content. If we have weeks without a PGA Tour event and we only have a Live event, I might start making like legit spreadsheets for Live. No promises there. Do not hold me to that, but I am highly considering it, right? Because obviously I like to be doing research week to week. If I'm going to play the Live Golf slate and I'm going to start to play DFS on that side a little bit more seriously, something that I am considering doing, then I'm going to have to start making research sheets, right? I'm going to have to start putting together projections for my own process. And if I'm doing that, I'll probably start to distribute that out to you guys as well. So just keep that in mind. It's something that I have been working on the side. The main issue, of course, is the data, right? We don't have shots gained data to work with. Most of my projections, really everything I do, right, is based off of shots gained data. So that's why there's a huge delay there. And that's why I don't want to commit to it, because I would be using like archaic, like green stats, fairway stats, putting averages, right? Which are so flawed. Like there's a reason that we use shots gained, but we'll see. I'm considering it at the very least, because we do have access to that data. But until then, guys, best of luck with everyone out there. Let's see. You had customers walk in, so we had to mute you. Hey, I'll just, you missed the shit I gave you. Yeah, I was giving you shit about your lineup construction, Nick. You and T Swenny. You guys, I think you got a little cute. We could talk about it on Discord, but I think you guys got a little cute with your lineup construction this week. And I was just giving you shit for it because I like told you not to do it, and then you did. But it's okay. I gotta give you shit, right? You give me shit, I give you shit. It's great. It's a lot of fun, right? You're down for the Live stuff? Yeah, me too, man. We'll have to see. If I can make it a part of my process, right, and I feel good about it enough to go out there and like start playing with those projections, right, putting my exposure behind them, then I'll give them to you guys, right? I'm not going to post content that I'm not using myself, essentially. So we'll see if we can get it back there. You go back and watch. I think you'll have a good laugh over it, Nick. So yeah. All right. That's all I've got for the live stream, guys. Best of luck out there. I appreciate all of your support here this season. And let's make the next one even better, shall we?